Hi, I'm Martin Jarvis, and once again I want to welcome you to another perspective. There's a lot going on in our world today, and one thing about the United States, that we really haven't experienced too much chaos in our nation over the years when conflicts arise in other places. Now, we have experienced high gas prices time and time again. But really that's been about it. But I think those times are about to change. We're facing stuff today that we haven't faced in recent history. And the effects of what's going on with the oil market, the oil industry, Iran, Israel, us, and all those oil producing nations and all. It's going to hit us, and it's going to hit us pretty hard, probably in the next couple of months. I'm sure by June we're going to be feeling what we haven't felt probably ever in recent history. And so we're going to talk about a couple of things today. One thing is how we got here. We might spend a moment talking about how we got here, and then how are we going to survive this thing. How we got here is what I want to call the privilege effect. We've heard over the years, and it's been used as an accusation, and it's also been used as an excuse, and many people have defended against it. Is this idea of white privilege in America? And so some people will cheer, like that's right, that's what the problem is, and other folks will get irate and angry. I'm not feeling privileged, it can't be me. But we're going to talk about this thing. We're going to dissect it today because the privilege effect is what I believe is the problem that we have in this nation. And so we can look at white privilege for real, not just as an accusation and not just the thing to be defended against, but try to look at it, what it could possibly mean, open-mindedly, okay? Because I believe this is the culprit. And I don't believe it's by intention of anyone. And I think it's easy for people who are not white to be able to point the finger at white folks and say white privilege, Just like it's easy to call a white person a racist or prejudiced and all this stuff. And what I'm suggesting is, and I came up in the 70s as a young person, as a teen, and even as a military man in the 70s, okay? And so I've seen a lot of stuff. I have seen a lot of racism. I have seen a lot of prejudiced folks, And one thing, position that I always had, coming on the heels of the Black Power movement, I was young, but I embraced that, was that I would get tired of black people always calling out white folks as being racist, whenever they got jammed up. And my feeling was that if you overuse that term, that accusatory term toward folks, even when it's not really the reason why you're jammed up, then you dilute the times when it actually is real, okay? And so I'd be calling black people out all the time back in the 70s. When I was in high school and even after high school, quit telling white folks they're prejudiced, quit telling white folks they're racist when you just got jammed up because of something you did, okay? Because then the real situations that arise, your words will have no weight. It's sort of like the boy who cried wolf, And really, I think the reason I have sort of embraced this position is because I never saw white people's opinion of me as something that could hamper me or keep me from being what I wanted to be or from doing what I wanted to do, okay? So to me, when you're hanging on to this accusation, and sometimes it's true that these people are prejudiced or these people are racist, I mean, so what? How is that actually harming you? Okay, for real. And I think and the lament of many white people today, I understand that because many of them are broke. They don't have any money in the bank. They're living from paycheck to paycheck. Their family relationships, marriages are all screwed up. Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, cars just hanging on by a thread. I mean, so folks don't feel privileged. And so when you say white privilege, it's automatically debunked by most white folks. So I want to take it a little bit deeper. I want to suggest today that the situation that white people are in that are not ideal, it's because of white privilege, okay? And I want to suggest, and I'm going to correlate that to American privilege, okay? I want to correlate that then to superpower, a society that is a superpower in the world, privilege, okay? When we look at every major ruling empire from a historical perspective, most of them are gone, okay? So how could they have been so powerful and then be gone? We had Germany was, pretty tough there for a minute. We had Rome, Pax Romana, the Roman peace. We had nations that were so strong. And what I want to suggest is their downfall was this attitude of privilege. Because when you have an attitude of privilege, you don't have an attitude that will move you to improve yourself. You don't have an attitude that will keep you on guard, making sure that you are okay, showing up all of the weak spots in your life because you feel you're okay. And so that's why, even when we look at the United States and we talk about the white privilege in America, the white privilege was not a benefit to white people in this nation. I bet you never heard that before. It wasn't. Because the white privilege, being born white, being around people who were not white, feeling yourself somewhat superior, and I don't even mean necessarily from an immoral type superiority, but if you're born into a society where there's, a disparaging in treatment of race, and you didn't create that situation, but you just happen to be born on the side that wasn't being disparaged, there's going to be a feeling of superiority coming upon you. Not that you are intrinsically better than this person, but you are intrinsically in a better off position than this person in this nation, okay? That's the superiority, and that's the privilege. And so when you find yourself in a place of superiority, you're not really forced to try so hard. I was raised in a family, and many black people will attest to this as well, raised by your parents to believe that if you wanted to compete with this white guy for the same job, you had to be 10 times better than that white guy. That's the way I was raised in the 60s and the 70s. That's what I was taught by my father, that you have to be better than the white guy in order to compete for the same position as that white guy. And that's because he has this white privilege. But think about it this. So you're improving yourself to be better than him just so you can compete with the job that he's going to get not being better than you, okay? So you have to be better than he is to compete for the same job. So he's not trying as hard as you are, so you're improving yourself to a greater place of intellect or physical ability or whatever it is you're competing for, because you have to be better than this guy because he's in a place of privilege, okay? So when the smoke clears and the dust settles, your intellect is going to be greater than his, your physical ability is going to be greater than his, and he's the one who had the privilege. And it was the very privilege that cursed him into not becoming more or seeing the need to become more than he became. Do you see what I'm saying? So that privilege then, what might seem like a positive thing is really a negative thing, because it doesn't move the person to try harder, because they know they're already in a position of societal superiority, okay? It's very interesting. And what I want to suggest in that, so what happens then? And we've seen it even in this nation during the elections. We saw when Barack Obama became president, it just blew everybody's mind. It blew white people's minds. It blew black people's minds. We couldn't hardly believe it. Although we supported him and we wanted him to win and we had high hopes. But something like that had never happened before in our experience, in our reality. And it was almost an impossibility to the point where black people even called Bill Clinton our first black president. Now how pathetic is that? To have to take a white guy and call him the first black president, because you know it's going to be impossible to have a black president. So when Obama became president, everything changed, everything shifted. So automatically what happened? You had a Tea Party formed. You had people so angry, so mad, that they were just railing on this young man, just berating him, calling him names, and created an organization, the Tea Party, just to make sure he was going to be a one-term president. Why is that? Because all of these white people that had been experiencing white privilege all of their lives finally had the rug pulled out from under them to recognize that their privilege was simply an illusion. And their privilege had actually made them weaker. And that's why they were angry. That's what you get. You get angry. And so after the Tea Party, then the MAGA movement was birthed from that. A lot of angry white people. And when you look at the demographic, the voting demographics, you're going to find that the MAGA primary base of support were uneducated white males. Now how do you think? And they were mad, and they're still mad today. Why is that? Because they were experiencing that white privilege. Not a white privilege where they were up on any folks intellectually, financially, relationally, or any other kind of measurable metric. But the fact that they were born into a society where they were looked upon as better, and people of darker skin were looked upon as worse or not as fortunate. But what did that get them? Okay, it didn't move them to prepare. It didn't move them to improve or to better themselves. They were satisfied. I'm white. That's what white privilege is. It's not that this individual is actually better than you. And it's actually that this individual believes that the societal standard dictates that they are better, so they don't have to try so hard. So what happens? The people that are trying hard surpass them. And that's what happened in the election with Barack Obama, and they were so angry. So you're faced then, we talked the other day about the mirror. When you're looking at someone, and someone who has got it going on, doing the right things, making the right moves and all, and you look at them and you're not making the right moves, you're not doing the right things, they are like a mirror to you. And so when you're looking at them, you're actually seeing yourself. And you're seeing the flaws in you. You're seeing the issues that you have, how you don't measure up. And so what do you have? You have the choice. You have the choice either to make yourself better or to break that mirror. And oftentimes people choose to break the mirror. So you have a lot of folks. These movements were made as a result of a black man becoming president of the United States and making these folks who had lived all of their lives with this white societal privilege to recognize that they were not privileged at all. They were no better than anyone. And that was anger. He wasn't born here. He hates America. He's a secret Muslim. All these things. They had to have some kind of excuse why this couldn't have been fair, rather than face the fact that their white privilege was simply an illusion. And not only an illusion, a self-damaging illusion, okay? And I'm really focusing on this right now because it's important. It's important because we have a privilege being Americans. We have the same type privilege. We haven't tried so hard. The metric system, what do we need to learn that for? Education, math skills, grammar, all that stuff, man, it's not important. That's how we felt because we're Americans. That's problematic, okay? It's problematic, as time goes on and everyone else is surpassing us. And so we look at the political situation we have today, and we have a negativity that our nation is facing by a party that was placed into power by a demographic of uneducated white males. Okay? Now, that's just a simple reality. Now I have a buddy, he's an Army vet, I'm Air Force, and I have another buddy, a Navy vet, and we talk a lot. And the Army guy, he's like, he hadn't talked to me about a week, he's been mad at me. Now on this program previously, I've mentioned how I've had this buddy that was totally politically different than me, and social order different than me as well. All of our beliefs were different, but we were cool like that. But all of a sudden, he couldn't handle it. He wasn't cool. Because I was sharing with him the mirror. And he's looked at the mirror. He had the opportunity either to fix himself or to break that mirror. And I was sharing with him that demographic of uneducated white males, he was in that. And he took issue with that. And he got so angry. So I mentioned it again. He got angry. But it was just a lively debate as far as I was concerned. It was just a political debate, and we just finally got to that point. And I said, of course that's what you think. because you're that demographic of uneducated white males. And what I want to share with you is, he just got so irritated with me making that statement. But it is a reality. He was in the Army, and he's retired Army, so he was an NCO. And I know that from the Air Force, the similarity is that they have NCO academies, and they have leadership schools that the NCOs attend so they could be better NCOs over the younger airmen and privates, or whatever they're called, or seamen in the Navy. And so my point to him was then that what's the point of those academies? What's the point of the NCO Academy or the leadership courses? Because it gives you that little edge in how to lead and how to understand. It's an education that the younger military people don't have. Okay? So you can't simply, reject the NCO Academy and say it means nothing. No, the purpose was to expand your education, to expand your worldview, to give you a better understanding of life that the younger military people can't see, that you can see, so that you can lead them more effectively and more efficiently. And by that same token, this is what education does. This is education. This is military education. Civilian education, it simply opens up your world, your worldview. Now, as many of you know, when Obama became president, I saw this cat that was younger than me with all this education. I had a high school diploma. I mean, I was a veteran. I've been in corporate America for 13 years. I worked for the federal government after that for maybe 15 years or so. But at that particular time, I felt, challenged. That this guy was so educated, and I could be educated, but I had chosen not to. So Obama was named president in November on my birthday of 2008. January 2009, I was registered and attending our local community college, St. Clair Community College. I ended up getting my associate degree, continued, got my bachelor's degree, continued, earned my MBA. Simply because I saw this man that was younger than me, that had an immense education, and I had a high school diploma. I could have broken the mirror, but no, instead I decided to fix myself. And so I tried to tell the brother. I guess the Navy guy got mad at me too, because he's uneducated, and he's also on the end of part of that same political party. I'm like, look, if you had some kind of mental deficiency, or physical, malady that didn't allow you to learn, I would never mention that. But if I talk about an uneducated base, which you are a part of, and you're uneducated because you choose to be uneducated. I mean, this guy, the Army guy who's been mad at me ever since for a week now, I mean, he is younger than me. He is the age that I was when I was studying for my bachelor's degree. So I was where he was, but I chose not to remain there. So you can't get angry over what you are if what you are is what you chose to be. And especially if you can change it, okay? See, the privileged that doesn't believe they need to change, doesn't believe they need to improve. And then when life passes you by and you recognize that some of your ill ideas and ill beliefs and gullibility is a result of your lack of education, lack of understanding, lack of worldview, I mean, it's easy to change. Just go down to your local community college and sign up. And so it's very important to see this, and I spent so much time on this white privilege, because this is just an example of the privilege that people are living in various nations and that we are living here. Not white privilege, but American privilege. You've heard of the ugly American, right? I've lived, when I was young, I lived in Europe for about 5 years, but as I became a man, when I was in the military myself, I lived in Japan, and I would often visit Korea. And what you'd see oftentimes, what they call an ugly American, is Americans going places with an attitude, with an air about them, that they are better than the people in their host countries. It's this attitude of American privilege, of thinking we can do this or we can do that. Even with this recent conflict that we have in the Middle East, and I'm an ex-military man. All my family is military. We have 100 years of military service. My father served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, 2 brothers Vietnam. My sister Desert Storm, she was a medic. Another brother and I just happened to be, were fortunate enough to be in peacetime. So I love this nation, I love our military, but the reality is we have this feeling that we have the toughest, strongest military in the world, and we do. But we have limitations. We didn't win in Vietnam. we didn't win in Iraq. We didn't win in Afghanistan. You know, the last war that the United States won was World War II, and that was with allies, okay? So we should not get it twisted, okay? We do have that strong military, but there are also things you have to deal with. You're talking about the terrain. You're talking about the lay of the land. You know, you're talking about the indigenous people and what they know. Yeah, Sun Tzu even tells you, you can be positive about your training and about your weaponry and about your skill, but you can't count on knowing how your opponent is going to be responding to you, okay? So this is the American privilege that we have. We think that we can go anywhere and make folks do what we want them to do, and because we have a military to back us up. But we found in Vietnam, we were in a quagmire. We were kind of jacked up there from like 1960. I think my father was there in 65. That was about when we started, 64, 65. I had my father there 65, I think. One of my brothers was there in, I think, 67. Another brother, he was in Thailand, on the border. He was there, I think, in 69. But I mean, we were there for 8 years, stuck, and then left, having lost, okay? So that's American privilege. I mean, we've been experiencing this American privilege forever. And you'd think we'd learn, because even the forming of this nation was formed as a result of dealing with Great Britain. Great Britain had this this England privilege. Thought they could run things, thought they could rule things, came down here, you know, to the United States and thought they could deal with the colonists, and they lost. We didn't learn from that. And we've simply taken their place and become just like them. And just as they had to turn tail and run, we're in a similar situation today. We're kind of a jacked up situation. Sometimes it's okay to say, oops, I made a mistake. As a leader, you have to be able to admit when you make a mistake. Especially if you're dragging your country into a quagmire that has no way out, that has no good outcome. It's going to cost American lives and American money. You got to learn to say, oops, I'm sorry, my bad, peace. We can't seem to do that, but that's not American privilege. American privilege will take you down. So what we're seeing right now in our nation, as we're interacting with Iran and Israel and all, is a result of that American privilege, and it's not going to win. That's the problem. Not without consequences, not without cost in money and lives and ego. That's American privilege. So we see the white privilege, we see the American privilege. We can see the black privilege, you know, sometimes in some of these, in sports, you know, in a big way, and that people will, you know, be in a particular position because of their skills. And there's a certain privilege that goes along with that. And they end up making poor choices, poor mistakes. They get comfortable in their privilege, not recognizing they're just as human as anyone else, and they get jammed up. This is the culprit. Privilege. We need to really watch that. We need to really get a hold of that and recognize we don't want that. We want to be well. We want to improve. I know it's hard. I know it's hard for white people in this nation. I think, though, that the more we suffer, the easier it's going to get. Because I don't know if you watch MMA, mixed martial art, but I don't care how strong the cat is. If he's in a chokehold and he's getting ready to pass out, he's got one of two choices. Either he's going to tap and the guy's going to let go, or he's just going to be choked out. And it's about as simple as that. Okay? And so that's the position that we find ourselves in today as Americans in this conflict that we're so deeply immersed in, and it doesn't seem like there's any positive way out, you know. saving face. Now we can act like we won. Yeah, I know we went in there because what was the reason again? Oh, the nuclear weapons, right? But you know, Iran has always allowed inspectors to come in there. You know, they've been saying, you know, we don't have nuclear weapons. Now, we do have enriched uranium we're trying to use to do other things. Every civilized society, you know, needs that power, okay? But as far as weapons, that was the issue. And so then I guess we decided we wanted to go in there for regime change, and we wanted to free the people because the people were suffering so we wanted to bring them some help, but now we've been killing the people we were supposed to be helping. It's just a big mess there, okay? And this is where the education comes in, because I don't know if you recall, so really now the focus is this idea of nuclear weapons, okay? Weapons of mass destruction, really. Now wasn't that the same reason we went into Iraq? Because we accused Saddam Hussein of having weapons of mass destruction, and we never found them. All I'm saying is it's kind of coincidental and eerily similar that we use the same type of excuses, you know, to bomb these people than to bomb these people over here. I don't know. Some of that privilege seeping through. Okay, so this is where we're at. We're in a pretty jacked up situation. I think it's because of the white privilege and the American privilege and uneducated voters. And when I say uneducated, that's why my friend got so mad at me. When I say uneducated, I mean, this is what college does for you. This is what the university does. And I don't just mean taking a class or two, but I mean going through the whole, you know, 2 years, and then going through another 4 years, and then going through another few years, you know, which is what I did. Because it opens your mind. You begin to see like you couldn't see before. And you begin to, even history, recognize history. I don't know what it is, but you change. And that's why even when you look at the voting demographics, you find, you know, uneducated white males are the primary base of support here, but educated white males are the primary support over here. Why is that? It's not because people are just woke, and all this negativity, you know, attached to all this stuff. It's that there is an education, there is a worldview that has expanded over here. It's sort of like you got kids, okay? I'm trying to make a point here. Kids. You're trying to tell your little kids, your little toddler, don't take candy from strangers. I don't know if you've seen that video, I think it's on TikTok or Instagram or something, where the parents are talking to little toddler kids. So what if a stranger comes up to you and says, you want to see a puppy in my truck? What are you going to tell him? The little kid goes, okay. And the mom's like, no, you're saying no. What if he says he wants to give you a whole bunch of candy? What are you going to say? Okay. Why is that? Because these kids, their worldview hasn't expanded to the point of recognizing just how evil people are. And so what I'm suggesting is that's called education. And that education prompts a worldview, gives you a better understanding of what's out there and what type of people are out there. And it also helps you overlook your own issues, your own anger, your own angst. You know, it's easy to rile people up who don't have an expanded worldview. That's really? Is that what he said? Is that what they did? Is it? They're eating dogs. They're eating cats. You know, it's easy to convince the uneducated of anything because their worldview isn't wide enough to recognize that I can't really trust you. You got this. I identify with what you're saying. Yeah, really? You're right. You know? No, man. Education is everything. Otherwise, we can really be made fools of. And we have too much to lose. See, back in the day, right, years ago, before social media, before the internet, before any of that, you know, we were voting and all. And then if a Democrat was in office, oh well. If a Republican's in office, oh well. Somebody doesn't like it, the other doesn't like it. Well, wait till the next election. You do what you can do. But we do see that how important it is to have a right-minded person in that position of leadership. I always compared the presidency to a car, you know, where this man is elected president, Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. He gets the car keys. And the nation is the car, okay? And his job And doesn't have to soup it up, doesn't have to make it all this or make it all that or go up and race people and rate and all. No, 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 no. You just make sure that when you're done, that car is in as pristine condition as it was when you got it. Don't break it, okay? This is a delicate vehicle here we have called the United States. And then when you recognize the economic relationship that we have with all of the other nations in the world, you recognize that you don't want to tilt this thing out of balance because it's all related to each other economically. And really, it's a fragile thread that keeps all this stuff going, and we're beginning to see it now. We see stuff going on in the Middle East right now. A little body of water gets blocked off, and every nation on the planet begins to suffer. And this is only like a month and a half into it. So this is what we find. I think a lot of folks were tripping, saying, nobody's done anything to Iran in 47 years. Iran really hasn't done that much. Okay. And I think I know we heard the talk about, I'm not going to be able to put this on cable because it might seem too political, although I'm not political. I'm just calling it out, what I see here. But it's been knocked around that over like the past 47 years, Iran has been responsible for 1,000 American deaths, And at first that sounds, wow, that's 1,000 American deaths, that's pretty, but when you really break it down and look at it, it's not really what they're saying, okay? But they recognize the uneducated base that they're appealing to, so when they say they've killed 1,000 Americans, we get all riled up because they're appealing to this uneducated base. The reality is there are conflicts in the Middle East, and there are conflicts between the Muslims and Israel, basically. That whole thing, Gaza, Palestinians, this stuff has been going on for a lot of years, 70, 80 years almost. Okay, so that's the conflict. So then you have the Iranians say, we're funding some of the rebels, but the battles were not between the United States, the battles really were with Israel. Okay, that's what all the Hezbollah shooting, rockets over here and Israel shooting them, all that kind of stuff. It had nothing to do with the United States, although we are funding the military equipment that Israel has, okay? So then when we get involved, so we go to the Middle East, of Iraq, okay, weapons of mass destruction, which it turned out he didn't have. Really, you're going to find the underlying factor is that everything that we've done in the Middle East has to do with Israel. Israel don't like these people. They want control over the entire region, and they want our help and clear it out. So now we find ourselves in Iraq, right? Saddam Hussein, all that stuff. We were over there, and then an American Jeep, say, or a tank goes over an IED and gets blown up. Well, that ID was planted by one of the insurgents that are here in Iraq fighting, Israel in a sense, in a way. And then we're over there, we get killed by that IED that was funded by Iran. Iran wasn't killing Americans. There's a conflict going on over there. We inserted ourselves in and then stepped on a landmine, in a sense, okay? So let's just, and so out of that 1,000 Americans that they say were killed by Iran over the however many year, 47-year period, there were like 649 of them were in that Iraq conflict. So they were not targeted by the Iranians. We got in the midst of a situation that was already happening, okay? And so I mean, anything can be spun. We learned, in statistics, that you could present information based on, say, a sample, and you can manipulate it to say anything that you want. It's very careful. That's where the education comes in. You have to recognize this. You have to recognize what's going on in order for you to be well. Okay, enough of that. We understand the privilege. That's what will get us down, the privilege. And until we begin to improve ourselves, we're always going to be victims to people who are more educated than us, who are power-minded or money-minded, and they will manipulate us to do their bidding because they're smarter than we are, okay? You can't let that happen. You need that education. So how do we survive this mess? Because it is upon us. It's here, man. So, and it just hasn't hit us totally yet, but within the next month, 2 months, 3 months, we're going to really be feeling it in every kind of way. Grocery stores, energy cost, all this stuff. People, the uneducated folks are not going to be able to afford what they think they've been supporting. Okay, and they're going to find that out. I think they're already finding it out. I saw a TikTok video this morning, or maybe it was a YouTube video, but it was a compilation of a bunch of TikTok videos of people in Alabama complaining about their energy prices. Alabama, a red state, and now they are feeling the burn from this administration that they helped put into office. Okay, I'm just saying. So at this point, what do? How do we survive? First thing is we're going to have to pull ourselves out of the fight. We have chosen sides. We've drawn lines in the sand, and I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, and this is what I'm fighting for. We need to recognize that those Republicans and those Democrats, those people in power, those people in Washington, D.C., those folks are millionaires, okay? And if they're not yet, it's only because they're new, and they will be before long, okay? So they're not like you. They're not like me. They're wealthy. We're not. No matter what happens in the economy, no matter how jacked up it gets, no matter how high the oil prices are, the gas prices are, the food prices are, no matter how high anything is, it's not going to affect them because they're loaded, okay? It's going to affect us. So we have to take ourselves out of the mix. Now, I've been telling folks this forever, on this program and in person everywhere, that I'm not political. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. As a black man in America, I'm like, until things are totally equal, both sides are just using me for my vote. Now, I will vote based on my interests, whatever it is I'm looking at. But I want to take it a step further. I don't want to say, even if you're not black, if you're not wealthy, these guys are just using you for your vote. It's the same thing. It's the black man as the poor white guy that's not a millionaire. They don't care. I mean, look, I think in this city, in Dayton, I think we had a mayor. Was it this city? Or maybe it was Trotwood. That was a Democrat and lost and then became a Republican. I mean, they can do that. Why can they do that? Because they don't really care. They just want to be in that position of power. Now how can you be of one political party with all these particular ideologies and ideals, and just because you didn't win, you're going to switch parties? I thought you believed in all... No. So recognize that, man. I'm calling myself a staunch Democrat. I'm calling myself a staunch Republican. But the people I'm voting for, they'll switch at the drop of a hat if they thought it would benefit them. Come on now. So we have to pull ourselves out of that political fray. We have to not align ourselves with either political party. I mean, vote based on your interest. But don't consider yourself this party or that party, because when you do, you find yourself embracing everything that they stand for. Okay? That's the problem. You can't do that. Evil is evil, good is good. Now, I understand fiscal responsibility, and I understand all the things these parties used to stand for, but nowadays it's ridiculous. And we're being used, so step out. Don't call yourself a Republican or Democrat. Recognize. And number two, you need to call evil evil and good good. Okay? You cannot, you need to recognize, and this is what we're suffering with. There's this thing called karma. There's this thing called you reap what you sow, according to the Bible, or from a secular perspective, chickens coming home to roost, or what goes around comes around. However you want to say it, it's a real thing. And we want to say, well, it's not really real, because you can't see it, right? Well, you can't see gravity either, but you see the result of it. You can't see oxygen either, but you see the result of it. I am suggesting that there is another principle that we are governed by on this planet. It's called what goes around comes around. You reap what you sow, and you can't see it, but how many of us have not experienced it? I guarantee you, if I go out like at 20 below zero and stand in a bucket of water for a half hour outside barefoot, I'm probably going to catch a cold. We reap what we sow. Okay, that's just too obvious. I know. But so I'm saying we need to look at stuff. So when we look, even like the immigration system, the situation that we have coming over our borders, first thing we got to do is, this has been going on for a long time. Were these immigrants really harming us? Okay. I'm not even saying don't do that, but I'm saying we really need to ask ourselves that question. Before this became an issue, a political issue, how many of our individual lives were actually negatively impacted by illegal immigrants coming into this nation? None. I'm telling you. We weren't. Were you negatively impacted by any illegal immigrant coming to this nation? No. I mean, I remember as a mailman in Dayton, and shoot, man, and I'd see these guys on the roof of a house, tearing a roof down and putting it back up and having it done in the same day. I mean, these guys are good. Whatever needed to be done could be done. The lawn crews and man, I've seen all this stuff for like 30 years as a mailman throughout the city. Very impressed by the work ethic of these immigrants that have come over from Mexico, and probably most of them may have been illegal. Illegal is such a harsh word. But we haven't been negatively impacted. They've been doing work, necessary work. They've been putting billions of dollars in our economy, doing work that other people don't do. I mean, come on. Look at all these farmers and ranchers that were so, wearing those red hats around. Now they're now crying because they don't have any workers to do what they need. They weren't taking anybody's job. They were taking the jobs that were left over that we really needed done. And I'm only saying all this for one reason. Is because we reap what we sow. What goes around comes around. See, so when people come into this border, we need to personalize that. Recognize that the chaos and the dangers and all the negative situation they're running from into this nation, taking their families, not wanting them to be harmed, wanting a better life. And we want to, nah, you can't come here. That is heartless. So this isn't even really political, it's just human. It's humane. And now here's where the history comes in. Here's where the educated part comes in for the uneducated. If you look at Guatemala, if you look at Honduras, if you look at all these nations that these people are coming from, you'll recognize that historically the United States was in those lands, disrupted their economies, messed up their governments for whatever reason, whether it was economic or whether it was political. We're the ones who messed up their nations, got rid of their governments, the gangs took over, the chaos took over, the violence took over. We left, and these nations are in shambles, and these people are fleeing the nations. We broke their nations. Their nations were fine. Their nations had governments. Their nations had economy. Their nations were functioning and prospering. We messed them up. We sent our CIA in there. Get rid of that leader. Get rid of this leader. We like their banana industry. Take that. All this stuff. Hawaii. We did that to Hawaii. The same thing, man. This is what we do. But we just stayed here because it was pretty nice. But the point is, these nations that are coming up from our southern border, up through Mexico into the United States, we're the ones who destabilize their nations. That's what they're fleeing from, the chaos that we created in their nations. And now speaking of this one guy, I love to debate. And one thing about me, when I debate, I won't get mad. I do get passionate, but I won't get mad. Now, I would like a debate to where, a lot of times when we're losing a debate, we start attacking the person that we're debating with, I don't like doing that. But if you do it to me, I'm going to get you. So I remember I was out on the mail route, and this guy that worked for a particular company, he didn't own anything, he was a worker there, and he was on his break. He wanted to talk about the illegal immigrants. And I'm like, I don't mind talking about it. I love a debate. And he said, you sure you won't get mad at me? I said, are you sure you won't get mad at me? By the time we were done with that conversation, he was mad at me. Because I expressed him, because, you know, I mean, good is good, right is right, wrong is wrong, good, evil. I mean, it's not that complicated. So to me, what I shared with him was the Mexican, and when I say Mexicans, they're not Mexicans all, they're just people coming over the Mexican border, coming into the U.S., is like, they're not bad people. They're fleeing a terrible situation. They want to work. They want to come here. They want to do the right things, raise their families, do all the things everybody wants to do. I said, now your people, on the other hand, came in here as thieves, as murderers, as rapists, as enslavers. I said, I like them better than I like you. I didn't mean him personally, but I'm just saying, the way your folks came here, you know, you really should not be here today because you are their offspring. These people are coming here with good intentions to work, to raise their families. I've seen them. I've seen guys that just come here just doing lawn service, maybe buy a lawnmower, maybe, and step up. Now he's got a truck with his business name on it, and he's hauling stuff around, and he's hiring other people to work for him. I mean, this is the American dream. And so yeah, that guy just finally started talking to me again. I don't understand why folks don't mind debating, and then when they lose, they want to get mad. And but yeah, this guy was mad. He's okay now. But anyway, so how are we going to survive this then? Is that we have to recognize, we have to operate in good and not in evil. So even this immigration thing. Now I'm saying this is not political, because we've had illegal immigrants coming here with the Democrats, illegal immigrants coming with the Republicans, okay? So what I'm about to say is not political, because they've been coming no matter what administration's been in office. So I just want to say we have to come, if you want to be well in life, regardless of what's going on, you have to choose good over evil. And so if this man is coming to this country with his family, trying to do good, because he didn't come here the right way, because come on, he couldn't, he's getting ready to die in his own country. We have to err on the side of good. And it's just as simple as that. It's not even all that deep. It's not an if and but, none of that. It's just good or evil. How are you treating your fellow human being? It's as simple as that. Take yourself out of the fray. Take yourself out of the mix. Take yourself out of the harsh political discourse. Rise above it. Look down upon it. Don't be in the fray, but definitely be able to identify good versus evil in all of that. And you'll be all right. And you know, this holds true with just about every situation in life. Maybe we should back up a little bit and not be so challenging, personally challenging there. But this isn't just about politics. This is about your finances. This is about your relationships. This is about your health. This is about your job. This is about yourself emotionally, psychologically. It's about everything in life, man. Just chill out. Back up a little bit. Ask yourself, what are you mad about? And whatever it is you're mad about, is it really affecting you personally? Then why are you mad? Don't be mad. Just pull yourself back and improve yourself. Constantly improve yourself. See, this is the situation. Like the situation we have in the Middle East right now, and stuff between governments, and even in politics right now. Yeah, look. I think I'm kind of left-leaning probably, because I really care about folks. And so I know I've put money between for two political folks running for office. But now I'm being inundated still with folks soliciting me to give to their causes, and I'm like, I have to put stop on each one of them. I'm not doing all that. I liked Obama, and I liked Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Just personally, I do. I think they're smart. They both are. She's smart too. And to see her come up, she wasn't really poor, but to work as a waitress and then come into Congress, and she's smart and she's slick. She has a particular political view about things. I don't agree with everything she says, but I think she's sharp, and I like that, especially in a young person. but you know, but I get all these requests now, text requests, and I just put stop on all of them. No, I'm not giving any more money. This is a battle between you guys. I liked Obama. I liked Alexandria. That's it. You know, you guys are on your own out there. You know, I hope the better man wins. But if you guys are wealthier than I am, why am I giving you my money? That doesn't even make a little bit of sense to me. No. So take yourself out of the fray. Always be on the side of good. Improve yourself. So education is like a really a very important key in that. Formal education, but as well informal education. As well, world events. Always know what's going on. Don't be oblivious. You'd be surprised how many people, they just go by off of what their news channel says, or off what their favorite guy says or favorite girl says as politicians. I find it no less alarming than I do with the church. All these people are firm in the belief. Their belief is simply based on what their pastor says, you know. And so they're doing the same thing. They're not studying. They're not reading their holy books or anything like that. They're just believing what somebody is telling them, and they're being manipulated often by those individuals who are giving their spin on what it is you're supposed to be believing. No, read for yourself. Learn for yourself. And then you'll make an informed decision. I saw yesterday, I think it was yesterday, Pete Hegseth, the guy, the Secretary of the Department of War, right? So he's leading a prayer by reading a scripture that he believes is out of the Bible, but is actually out of the movie Pulp Fiction. Samuel L. Jackson, he was quoting. That's how. But these people are believing it, and this guy's believing it too, presenting himself like he's some kind of religious person when he went. I don't know where ChatGPT. I don't know where he got that from. But how do you say I'm quoting this out of the Bible? And you're actually quoting the speech from this character in Pulp Fiction. Come on now. We have to do better. We have to be better. Rise, just be above the fray. Don't be involved in that mess. Always opt for good. I'm trying to tell you how to survive the mess when it comes down. Maybe I'm coming from even if you look at black folks' history in this nation, that we've been here through all kinds of craziness. You know that. However, don't be political about it. You know it's been crazy for black people in this nation from the beginning all the way up until now. But the key is, how do we survive? Why are we still here? Why are we not extinct? Because we know how to survive. You know, maybe I should put out a master's class teaching white people to be black people, how to be black people and how to survive. Don't get in the mix, man. You ain't a part of that. These are these rich folks out here. That's like you got these two. Imagine that. You got your one hero, your mixed martial art person. Say, and you got Amanda Nunes over here, and she's fighting, I don't know, the girl who hurt her back. I can't remember what her name is. Getting ready to fight her, maybe she will. And they're fighting, and they're good, you know. They're ladies, but you know, I'm sure they can whoop me, both of them. But they're fighting. I'm so into the fight, I'm going to get in the ring with them. They don't need me up in there. Plus, they're both getting like $1 million anyway for the fight. I'm not getting paid. Just sit back, watch it, be informed. You can even enjoy the show. But just don't get sucked into it. And if you're mad, that's a clear sign that there's something wrong with you, because you shouldn't be mad about what they're fighting about. That's not your fight. Your fight is to make sure you're okay, your family is okay, and recognize that this stuff is going to settle one day. You know, what kind of damage? There are people that have done damage to their families, damage to their kids because of their political positions and their hero worship. Don't do that. These people are going to fade away. These people are going to die. These people are just going to be a part of the history record books. Yet relationships have been destroyed forever because of these people who don't even know your name. Doesn't make any sense. Get yourself together. Take care of your business. Get educated. Create some kind of business. Man, I know a guy, he's a friend of mine. He's from Haiti, and I work with him. He's a mailman. Really sharp brother. Graduated from, I think, Ohio State University. And he's an architect. He works with me. He's also got a trucking company. He's also got a landscaping company. And I'm just so impressed with this guy. And you know what? I even gave him some, I have an MBA, right? I'm playing, but I do. I gave him some advice the other day. I said, look, man, I said, when I was carrying mail in Dayton, around the hood, in that area, I would see all these distressed properties, that were overgrown, and there would just be regular people out there cutting the grass. I said, a person like you already have a landscaping company. You need to contact, the city or the county and find out how you get on that list where they'll call you when they have properties that they need you to cut the grass for. And he said, okay, man, I think I will. I got on AI. I put the idea in there. It's a real thing. They do have a list. They will call you. They gave me the telephone. I even gave him the telephone number to call so he can get signed up for that. I'm telling you, man, there's money to be made out there. I had another buddy, and he's a Marine. He was actually in the barracks, was blown up in Beirut. He had his Purple Heart. Buddy of mine, he was in my wedding, as a matter of fact. He's consumed with these conspiracy theories. All the ones, the Rothschilds, the Illuminati, and all these other ones I haven't even heard of. And I don't even worry about that stuff. And he couldn't understand, why aren't you concerned about this? I'm like, why? But I shared with him, no matter what these conspiracy theories are, even if some of them are true, within my sphere of existence, I can be wealthy, I can be poor, I can be sober-minded, I can be a drug addict, I can be a good father to my children, I can be a deadbeat dad, I can be a good husband to my wife, I can be a philanderer. Anything that I choose to be within my realm of existence is possible. What it takes is education. More education. Formally, informal education. And just improve myself. Now right now, I'm going to be 68 years old in November. I'm in pretty good health for a man my age. I work out. I eat healthy. I'm improving myself. I study the Arabic language, Egyptian Arabic. I have a ashrab shwet awa. I'd like a cup of coffee. I'm exercising my brain. I'm exercising my body. I'm eating healthy. I'm writing books. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I'm improving myself. I'm studying all the time. Reading all the time. Audiobooks all the time. Just keeping myself sharp. I'm improving myself. And putting my stuff out here to you guys. To share. Not so much to share everything I know, but to share the encouragement to find out for yourself. Don't be satisfied. So I guess in closing, we do need to be aware that a lot is going on in our nation and in the world right now. And it's going to come knocking on our doors, and we're going to be affected financially a bit. But just, my philosophy is exercise whatever you can, improve whatever you can, take care of it, do whatever you can. Don't worry about what you can't fix. Don't worry about what you have no control over. But what you do have control over, handle that. Okay? So that's it. And so that whenever, say we have a conflict, this negativity that's going on in the world right now, that's going to be affecting us very soon, eventually that cloud will lift. That dust will settle. That smoke will clear. And just, if you're functioning in a positive way, that when the situation clears itself up, you will be new and improved. You won't be the same person when the situation came upon us as you will be when the situation arises. And you will be ready. You'll be ready to move into the next level of your life, the next phase. Because I guarantee you this, most folks are not going to be improving themselves while we're going through this climactic time. We're going through this treacherous time economically, internationally, politically, and all the mess that we're going to be facing. Most folks are not going to be improving themselves. Improve yourself. So when that situation is over, you'll be in a better place than most people. and you'll be all right. All right?